Mr. Campbell, for 5 minutes. And
thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if you'll indulge me, I'm going to go to covered bonds kindergarten here. So let's, and we're going to use Mr. Andrews because you're here, your bank as an example. So prior to 2008, Mr. Andrews makes 30-year fixed-rate loans, home loans, and he can either retain them in the old model of the 70s and so forth, or he sells them off and to a collateral pool is what happened prior to that. Okay, so now we have this covered bond alternative. He sells that loan in covered bonds. The cover is the pool of the loans, his and other banks, presumably. And when I'm wrong, I mean, I'll give you an opportunity to tell me I'm wrong. But all right, so then if that's not the cover, what is the cover?
The cover, what's in the cover pool are the assets that are securing the bonds are loans that are on that bank's balance sheet. There is not a pooling of the loans. It is the bank owns the loans and it issues covered bonds. Okay.
Then he does that for his liquidity and so forth out there. But the only thing covering that is the same loans that would have covered it had it been sold into a CMBS, into a mortgage-backed securities market of some sort, right? I mean, there's no additional collateral.
May I offer a
the
distinction?
Exception, you could substitute loans if they go bad.
Okay.
So we could sit here on our balance sheet and pull out this one and pull up that one, and that's exactly what WAWU was doing.
So why do you do that? Why would you go to a covered, and then I'll come back to you. I'm not going to, why would you go to a covered bond market if there were a mortgage-backed securities market available?
We personally wouldn't. We could hold 30-year mortgages on our books today all day long. If we were worried about interest rate risk, say we're making loans today at 4%.
Let's say you couldn't.
We get interest rate swap.
Let's say you couldn't. Let's say you were going either you needed liquidity. So on these things, so you either went to a mortgage-backed security or a covered bond market,
Or the Federal Home Loan Bank.
Can I just interject? The UK banks, Mr. Chairman, they look at both instruments and they want to have access to both instruments. This is not either or. This is not exclusive. All we're talking about is an additional instrument for which you have investors in the United States. It is in addition to what you've already got. And I think if European banks look at it, but the UK in particular, they want access to the old ABS market. They think it's a good market. They want access to this because it's actually cheaper. This is a better, cost-effective, longer-term source of funding for them. And it's important, liquidity. Lack of liquidity has been killing our banks.
Okay.
This is a good way to get term liquidity back.
Mr. DeLisa.
Congressman Campbell, thank you. The distinction I'd like to offer for the subcommittee between what Mr. Andrews offers, which is a hypothetical, and what we actually experienced, is this. The assertion is that the economy goes bad, and as a result, the loans go bad. That's really not the cause-effect relationship that we just experienced in the prior crisis. The cause-effect relationship we experienced in the prior crisis was the underwriting went bad, the loans went bad, and the economy went bad. The underwriting went bad because there was an ability to transfer risk without a proper disciplined market mechanism for the supervision of that risk for a number of reasons we don't need to get into. If banks had the incentive to assure that the risk that was being retained in the whole loans that they have on their balance sheet was no different than any other risk that they're managing in those mortgage loans, there could not be that cause-effect relationship. So we would have had, if we had a covered bond paradigm, it's my opinion that we may very well have created a situation where the underwriting discipline was reinforced because the banks continued to own that risk, and therefore the loans did not go delinquent, and therefore the economy did not go south.
Okay, let me ask this then. If my concern going forward is that, and to Mr. Andrews' point, we have had 69% homeownership, probably 65 or 66, whatever we are now. And that banks get excited about certain segments of the loan market for a while, and they'll loan to anybody, and then they pull back. And they do that in home loans, they do that in car loans, they do that in commercial loans, they do that in all kinds of segments. And we can't let the entire home market be subject to the fact that, particularly you're right about the concentration of banking now, that large banks decide, ooh, we don't like home loans for the next 3 months, so we pull back and tank the whole economy along with it because people can't sell homes, there isn't liquidity, et cetera. I'm not sure where I see where this solves that problem, where this creates it provides a new option, but I'm not sure it provides a lot of stability when the banking sector decides to pull back from a particular market.
I guess if I could just add, I'm not sure why a bank would pull back from a market.
They do it all the time because they're